Hello everyone. In this video, let's do a brief review for the SAP we have completed so far. Because I observe when you try to finish the exercise, most of us were kind of on a rush, especially when I try to help because of the limited time. Oh, I told you, oh, just skip, right? Skip the checking process, focus on the real transactions or the steps. But when you have time, I encourage you to read the whole package, the instruction file. So you can see not only the instruction to finish the steps, but many of the logics, like, why we have this master data and how the database are connected to each other, and especially for the questions included in the package. That's very important for you not only complete the steps, but have a fully understanding the whole SAP system and how that's related to our contents from the book and the overall class, and even more broad, why we learn SAP in the accounting field. So here I'm preparing another slide, right? So it's really a kind of like really the essential stuff. Okay, so really, I will post these slides and go over this a little bit because in the final exam, we will focus on the materials after midterm. After midterm, we majorly learned the ERP system with the SAP examples. And then the last chapter is chapter 11, the internal control. That's more conceptual stuff. So for SAP, I am giving my own definition. Okay, so like the first paragraph you are seeing here, I'm not copying from anywhere. I thought like my best understanding, and I think this is a good summary. So SAP was initially established as a major ERP software or applications. So majorly serve on the enterprise resource planning, right? That's like the original purpose. But with all of the development over the years, with the business uh, challenge and all of the technology development, so SAP now is a comprehensive platform that covers almost every aspect of the business operations, including the original ERP. ERP means your integrated daily operational system, and more on the customer or vendor management, planning and controlling with strong data analytics, and much more by leading edge technologies such as data analytics, machine learning, and these days, artificial intelligence. And our goal to learn, use the hands-on practice for this very powerful system is as accounting or business professionals, this will be the system you are going to work with or something similar in the future. So we need to learn the fundamental structures of the ERP system with a focus on how accounting is integrated with all of the other business functions. And we do hand-on practice with the basic business SAP business modules. We learned like, we require three of them: financial module, the procurement, and the sales. I also posted a bonus on the cost control, like overhead allocations, but there are much more. In addition, like there will be asset management module, human resource module, production module, project management, and even warehouse management. So when you have time or opportunities, I really urge you, to develop yourself more on these different systems. And I'm also available to discuss or if you have any interest. First, let's go over two of the pictures or diagram I printed and brought to the classroom for handouts. The first one, when we use, when you try to understand a business, we need to master or understand the process, right, for serving the purpose of the company. What are the business processes included by your business operations? And we focus on like a bicycle company. Okay, the handouts I'm doing here, not exactly the global bike we used in our modules, but is pretty much the same. But if you work on other type of industry or companies, like the banking industry, like a car industry or wholesale retail stores, or even universities, they may have different processes. But you need to use some documentation, right? So in chapter 4, we learned the BPMN system. So BPMN system or flow charting are very nice tools so we can, help us to understand and put down the business structure. So you need to work on. So for the biking company, we talk about in class, the different colors see here is covering the different, like the major operations, the functionalities of the company in different aspects. In accounting, we have the light. The light green means the financial accounting functions. And the dark one, the dark green is the controlling. In SAP, the controlling is basically our managerial accounting. Then the orange, human resource functions. The purple is the procurement or logistics. So we did the procurement, we call purchase to pay. Then the blue one, sales, order to cash, right? So our third module. And then the black one are production modules. See here, you only see very 4 or 5 nodes, right? But in reality, I would say production is one of the most complicated SAP module because production, you need to gather all of your resources, material, labor, and overhead. So that encounter many, many details. When beyond like the really the simple homework we do in class, the real operation of production is much more complicated. But what we are learning here give us the structure or the foundations. And I think they also have a service, right? Because not only they make and sell the products, they also offer like warranty services and other actual service. So there is a service line also covered by the company. Okay, so the different line of functions. And each function we talk about before you perform all of the business transactions in your system, you must build or create all of the master data, right? In chapter 5 and 6, we learned database management, especially the relational database management. Without the database, there is no system because all of the business functions, purchasing, sales, like service, purchasing the materials, even HR, like labor, those need a database to contain the results of your business operations. So each of your functional line, you start to build or create the master data. That's really reflected in the SAP module we finished. Remember, in the purchasing, before we do the purchase, before we build the purchase requisition, purchase orders, we created the material master data and the vendor master data, right? Without those, we call those are the master data. Master data are relative permanent because you don't really want change too often the structure of your master data because if you change the structure, adding or remove the attributes, or like adding or remove the views is really affect the future data and the past. So when you design the master data structure, very, very careful and make it, so think about it thoroughly, right? So give all of the considerations because you are going to maintain the structure for a relatively long time. And then after you have the master data, you can add the transactional data, right? Then you can build new purchase orders, right? So we have one, then you can build other purchase orders, do the shipment, billing, receive, process the invoices and make payments. So the transactions can be repeating in each like accounting cycle, but the master data structure is relatively stable to hold all of the transactional data. And based upon the processes you have in the company, then you need to design a concrete, reasonable, and easy to operate enterprise structure. Oh, this is like a structure. It's like we build a, like you construct a new building, right? You need to know what kind of functions this building should have. But how you combine all of the different components of the building together, right? So you have like, we need engineers, right? Like the architectures. So this is a architecture for business operations, right? So all of the 6 or 7 different functional lines, how we organize them together and assign different, like what are the required features, right? Like, the data or structure, we must, organize your whole business. So that's like, you already, after we finish the modules, now you have idea, okay, what it means by a client. I told you in the beginning, like, when we apply the SAP academic license, our class is a client. So we have 319. And under this client, we have different company codes. Each of you own a company code. So like the bicycles, right? So we have AIS 01 Q25, right? And then be careful, you also have the controlling area, even we haven't really used it, but the controlling area is a structure symbol we used for managerial accounting majorly, okay, for planning, controlling, and profit analysis. So under one controlling, you can have multiple company code. Or company code, I can say is more like for financial accounting purpose. So each company code, you have your own individual chart of accounts, your financial reports and your whole financial accounting system. And then you have when we create a master data for material and vendors. Remember, we use the purchase organization, right? So we have we use US, your company code, or we have the North America, right? So that's another enterprise structure. Okay, so that's under your controlling area and can be consistent with your company code or can be different from your company code. Okay, these are different structure, sometimes they have overlapping and sometimes they are different. As you learn more, you can get a deeper understanding of those structure things. And then you can see the color here corresponding to the prior slide. The only difference is the gray 1C we have here is a production. The gray like the gray modules. Then in the prior picture, the color for production is black. Okay, so division, valuation, and remember when we create the material, there is a valuation class. So in valuation class means in your production, how we decide the cost of goods sold, right? Because when you have material, you have FIFO, first in, first out, or last in, first out. So there are different valuation required for production purpose. And you also need to know the plant where you are going to make the bicycles. We have the Miami in our case, even we are only doing the retail for the helmets. And for the blue line shipping, like sales, right? So we must define the shipping point because that's the way after you create your sales order, the system needs to know where that they are going to ship the helmets. If you miss the shipping point, a few of you missing the shipping point, you will see your sales order won't be saved or you couldn't do the delivery later. Oh. And also the sales org. And we have UE, right? So like, it's different from here, but that's all the structure components we need to define in different parts of our master data or transaction data. If you miss or make a mistake, your transaction will not be processed correctly. And the yellow one are warehousing management or extended. So warehouse management, you need to let them know, in terms of the storage, like locations, and the requirements for the physical maintenance, physical maintenance of the helmets. Remember, in the material master data, we are looking for temperature requirements like the bin, place, or the shelf, for those. So really, this will really help you understand. Not really only for accounting, it's for your whole business courses, the enterprise structure. And now the accounting system, or especially the financial accounting system. In SAP, we have two majorly, they call like the balance sheet accounts, and then the profit and the loss accounts. So P&L. P&L basically means your income statement accounts, but in SAP, they call P&L accounts. We also have reconciliation accounts, majorly your accounts receivable, like for customers, and accounts payable for vendors. You already noticed in the purchasing, even we have so when we create a vendor, we also define which payable account, right? So the vendor should be used later in the transactions. So when we receive the invoice from the vendor, you don't really see the accounts payable, but you really identify the vendor. By picking the vendor, the payable is already bundled. So there is a vendor, there is a payable account bonded for this vendor already because we define those bonding in the vendor master data. Similarly, in the sales functions, when you create a billing, when you create the business partner for customer, remember we already assign the account receivable account to the customer. So later when you send the invoice or you collect the money from the customer, you don't need to define the account receivable. You only need to tell the system which customer, right? Like the 190 with your company code. So once you identify the customer, the system will find the correct account receivable to use. So account receivable and payable, because those are important, and we need to match the general ledger and the sub ledgers correctly. So they call reconciliation account especially, or reconciliation accounts actually belongs to the balance sheet, right? So as we learn from the financial accounting, but in SAP, they pick those out to indicate the special management for the receivable and the payables. Then profit and loss account, your revenues. In the sales module, we recognized a sales revenue. You remember we earned 600 by sales helmets. And then we have cost of goods sold for the sales function. That's how much, like, oh, I'm sorry. For the sales revenue is 1,000. Okay, in our SAP sales, the sales revenue is 1,000 and the cost of the inventory is 600, right? So that's like when you post the delivery, remember we create a delivery document, outbound delivery, and then we post it. When you post, you recognize the cost of goods sold and reduce the inventory, the helmets, by 20 units. The cost is 30 units per helmet. So the cost is $600. And the revenue is $50 per helmet. So the revenue is 1,000. The difference between your 1,000 revenue and cost 400 is the gross margin, right? So you can do profit analysis later for this sales transaction. So combined with your financial accounting module, right? So like now you should have a deeper understanding, right? So the balance sheet and the income statement. All of the transactions are handled on daily basis. And then with SAP, we can summarize all of the account balance and prepare the financial statement very, very easily in the end of the accounting cycle, all automatically. And this is a more detailed indicating of the like balance sheet account, income statement account, and also the secondary cost. I mentioned briefly, secondary cost is managerial accounting elements only. Don't worry that too much. Okay, this is a special SAP stuff. So secondary cost is accumulation, is like a place we can accumulate the cost or expenses for the cost center, okay, for cost management purpose. For example, we have a new employee training activity, right? Or new employee training event. Then we can create a employee training cost object, a event to hold all of the training related expenses. So in that case, it's a secondary cost object. It's not related to financial accounting, but it is a managerial accounting concept. And then I'm using this, so the SAP financial module, the first practice we did. In that practice, we created 3 new ledger account, right? So we already have all of the cash, receivables, and payables. But for starters, I want you to learn all the package, okay, showing the way how you can create a new ledger account, right? By copying the structure from the existing bank, accounts payable and expense. You also can create a brand new without referring to an existing account. But So that's like, oh, we created a few new accounts and then we simulate three journal entries or business transactions. We simulate receive like a transfer of fund from your main bank account to the new bank account by 5,000. Then we simulate receive a invoice from a property company, right? So this invoice doesn't involve a purchasing. Okay, there is no purchasing inventory. It's only a service invoice. So that's the most simple, straightforward. So that vendor, the cardinal property, so it's not a purchasing vendor, it's a service vendor. So for service vendor, we only need the general data and the company code, right? So if you recall, now you should have much better understanding. I think it's much easier for me to talk about these different terms. So for a general service vendor, we define like the vendor code, the name, the address, right, for general data, and also the payable we are going to use that's for company code. So, and finally, we make payments. Okay, we simulate the payment for the rent. Ignore the numbers here because they are talking about something else. For our practice, we have 1,500 invoice from the property company and make the payments. And so if you we have rental expense, right? So rather than office supply, and you have your own new accounts payables, also ignore the account number or is different, is a different what like a different example. Okay, but just we have the like one like the six we have 6 digit accounts, right? Then see you have the vendor accounts, right? So that's your sub-ledger, and you have your payable accounts. So reconciliation account. So reconciliation means when you accept a invoice or settle the invoice for the sub-ledger vendor, the transaction will be automatically carried to the general ledger as well under your payable account. Okay, for the vendor. So there is always corresponding. For example, when I pay this 1,000 vendor account, I really need to match the payable in my general ledger. Okay, like when we do the practice, there are only 1 or 2 different transactions. But imagine if you work in a real business, each day there may be 100 or even thousands of vendor related transactions. And we may have like 10, 20 different vendors. So vendor reconciliation or even customer account reconciliation is one of the critical daily management for financial accounting because you don't want to post the payments to a wrong vendor, right? Or like or like to the same vendor but to a wrong transaction. And the real company, I think I can forward forgot which Kodak. No, not Kodak. The other one, or Macy's. They just have a big problem. They have they made many mistakes on the reconciliation accounts. Okay, they have to reinstate their financial statements. But anyway, when we remember the billing for the rental expense. Okay, see here. If is not a supply, like inventory is an expense, we also need to identify the cost center. Okay, because the cost center carries the number to your managerial accounting. We need to identify which department or which cost center will be responsible for the rental expense or supply expense. So you can see the managerial accounting get most of the data from the financial accounting system. Okay, they share the same database. So that's a important planning and controlling SAP. When you have a primary cost or expense, when we recognize a supply expense, utility expense, or repairment expense, you must identify the managerial cost object related to this expense. So I will stop here to summarize, the general SAP and the financial accounting module. I will make another video for the purchasing and the sales separate.